The boys are playing some ball. The boys are here to talk about it, and the Royals might be cheating and hacking on other teams, and they are climbing back in the division because of it. Let's talk about it.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Welcome back in, everybody. One Royal Way podcast here on KC Sports Network. Jordan Foote, Joel Penfield, Josh Keiser, presented by our good friends at Emprise Bank, our partners in Possible. Eternally grateful for them and their support. Eternally grateful for the pals. In case anyone was wondering, I'm not actually implying the Royals are cheating, but they are playing better ball, and I think that makes for a better podcast. Josh, what do you think?
Definitely makes for better podcasting. And if we know anything about good podcasting here at One Royal Way and at KC Sports Network, it is how to make a good podcast. So, and I just repeated the joke there in the same punchline. So that's how we're starting today. That's how we're doing it. Joel, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty well, fellas. So I'm taking us in a completely different direction with my little intro here because my 3-year-old son has become obsessed with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It is what he has watched, listened to, and consumed for the better part of the last 2 weeks, nonstop. So to ask you, gentlemen, who is your favorite Ninja Turtle and why?
What if I told you I don't have one and I can't name a single one? What if I told you that? Would I be fired?
I mean, to be fair, I really didn't know too much about them until my son started watching it because it was just not something I watched when I was a kid. But now I kind of have to by proxy because he's watching it all the time and it's what's on the TV and playing on the stereo in my car.
I would assign with your personality types, Jordan, you're a Donatello. You're a Donnie for sure.
100%.
Brains behind the operation, make sure everybody is taken care of. I'm going to say Joel's Raph. I think you got a fieriness about you, and I think you bring some heat, and I love that. Growing up, Leo, I was a Leonardo guy. I was a big Leonardo guy, and I think I might have I'm more Michelangelo at this point in my life, I think.
Yes, I always feel like I'm more Michelangelo because I'm more of I feel like I'm a vibes guy, and that's pretty much what Michelangelo is there for the most part.
He's a vibes guy, 100%. Vibes champion.
The Royals might be
Leo's
vibes
got to keep
champions.
everybody. Leo's straight and narrow guy. He's the square. He's got to keep everybody on topic, and that is not me, but that's who I strive to be growing up. Plus swords, awesome. They're the ultimate weapon.
Yes.
Back in, I'm trying to think of a comparable group that I latched onto as a kid because the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were not that. SpongeBob and his friends.
Bowls, you sports nerd.
Yeah, I don't know. SpongeBob and Friends, like the Cartoon Network, the Codename Kids Next Door, they're not even close to the Ninja Turtles. So Ed, and Eddie, I can't think of an iconic quartet that I was a fan of.
Those are all past my time, way past my time. Doug, did you guys mess with Doug or Recess?
I did watch Recess. It's been a very long time, but I remember watching Recess.
I don't know. That gives me homework for next time. I'll have to do my background on the Ninja Turtles. But we did our background
watching
on
the OG.
Whatever's
the original.
Whatever's on Netflix is basically what we're watching, and I think it's more new. Okay. I don't know where to find. If anyone that knows of it and knows what streaming service I can find the OG on, drop it in the comments, and I'll be sure to pull it up.
I would also want to know what's happening with that.
Yeah, feel free to interact as we're doing this live show. We were kind of debating back and forth and talking about the storm coming in, or storms, plural. And we're just going to power through it. I think we'll be okay. No one's power has completely gone out. So the Royals, they have lightning in their bats right now. Getting better, 4-2 since the last time we recorded. Big time series win over the Marlins. We'll talk about that. And then taking 3 of 4 against the Cleveland Guardians. That was huge. Absolutely massive for them. Getting back in the division race, we're going to talk about that. Box score things, guys, to jump out. I think for me, the final game of the Marlins series, that 5-run 8th inning, was huge. Brady Singer with a good start. And then the Seth Lugo start in the final game against Cleveland jumped out to me.
100%. That it feels like that that fifth inning or the eighth inning and that final game against the Marlins was like the exercising of demons from that offensive funk that we had seen for the previous 10 games or so. That was like, okay, breath of fresh air. We got a crooked number up there for the first time in a while. We're rolling. I think we're feeling a lot better now. And it seemed like it snowballed into that Cleveland series. They didn't have a great offensive performance on Thursday, but they still found a way to win. They broke it open on Saturday and then bounced back great on Friday and then bounced back really solidly on Sunday to take the series. Seth Lugo, masterful again. I mean, this is no longer just like, sure, he may be overachieving some, but this isn't just like a really good start. We're talking like he is in the conversation with Tarek Skubal and some of those guys for like Cy Young candidacy. He's probably going to be a down ballot guy, but if you told me coming into the year, yes, Seth Lugo is going to be top 5 in the Cy Young, like, I mean, I would have told you were crazy, but what he's doing right now is absolutely remarkable, and it's everything this team needs.
Agreed. I was going to say Lugo kind of jumped out. He had the 2 starts, 12 innings pitched, and no earned in those 2, 18 strikeouts. Insane. I mean, we talked about Lugo being efficient, and we've had some strikeouts that have been. We've had some games where strikeouts did show up, but I mean that's 2 in a row against a pretty subpar offense and then a good offense. So it is fun to see Seth Lugo, and we're doing this. The starting pitching has been the most consistent thing. They're the backbone of this team, and as this team goes, the rotation is the one that drives that. So it's good to see some of those guys, breaking out on the offense, especially those 1 through 4 hitters. Michael was struggling. Vinny was struggling. Salvi was going through a stretch, and they both all kind of woke up. Vinny has had a huge, last 30 weeks or so. So that's been a huge, nice little thing. But we need that offense to continue to wake up and keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah. The only other thing for me really was that Cole Reagan's start in the 3rd game against Cleveland. Not great Cole Reagan's, and they were kind of due for a game like that. He's not going to be perfect every single time out. It's unfair to expect that. And Josh, you hit on Vinny Pasquantino, just an absolutely massive game. I have a feeling that we'll talk about him maybe if we do a toast game later in this podcast, perhaps. But overall, very successful week for the Royals. And we talked about how important it was and how if you're going to get back in the division race against Cleveland, I mean, we use that term loosely, back in the race, but literally all it takes is a couple hot weeks and they're right in the thick of it again. By no means out of it or anywhere near close. You're getting hot near the All-Star break and can hit the ground running afterwards. So very big week for them. Very not big week, very slow, kind of uneventful week on the transaction front. Jake Brent's cleared waivers, kind of a expected move, and was sent back to Northwest Arkansas. We talked last week about what he did. In the month of May, it was not very pretty. In the month of June, not great, but better. So watching to see what he can do. And then Jesus Tinoco got signed to a minor league deal. 2024 with Texas, had an 8.10 ERA in 10 innings. Their AAA team, he had a 3.80 ERA, struck out over 11 per 9, so was pitching really well. And then he's been scoreless so far in Omaha in 2 games. So I don't know if any of you have additional thoughts on Jesus Tinoco. I know that that's not a groundbreaking signing in late June, early July, but it is a signing nonetheless. Joel, what do you think?
I mean, he's got some decent velocity, which is what this bullpen needs. I mean, that's basically his calling card. It's average around 96. It was a slider, sinker, and he has a changeup. He's only thrown it once, but it's all right stuff. Maybe just a change of scenery, helps him. Maybe something with the AAA pitching staff, pitching coaches. Maybe they're able to tinker with him, find something. And I don't know. I don't think he factors into the bullpen. It's probably org depth. He's 29. But a decent fastball, and he's got some big league experience if they're in a pinch and need it.
And has had some success in just 3 innings there in Omaha. I guess he struck out 4 or something like that in 3 innings.
Right.
So, yeah, Joel, you hit it. The thing that kind of stood out to me was I think he throws like a 60% slider.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
It was a lot of sliders. I was looking at Savant, and I think that's why I stuttered for a second because I saw the percentage on the slider. I was like, oh, that's different. Okay.
He's what I've never heard this prior to this weekend, but HUD said something about a slider baller. I've always heard a sinker baller. I've never heard of a slider baller, but he would fit the bill on that front. But at this point, I'm not going to complain too much about any kind of bullpen depth at this point. We know that is a weakness in this bullpen, and we're going to throw everything we can at the walls, especially if it's free. So see what he can do, see if he can fit and figure something out that they don't currently have, and could be fun, change of look that they could throw at other people. So not a big deal, but it is at least something.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. They could get more bullpen depth back when Chris Bubich returns. That rehab assignment ends on July 6th. So literally by the next time we record, that's going to be all said and done. Last 3 appearances in Omaha. On the 25th, pitched 2 1/3, struck out 2. On the 28th, he struck out 1, had a scoreless inning. Then the most recent appearance gave up a home run, couple runs, but 1 walk, 1 strikeout. Like, we aren't learning anything new about Chris Bubich on June 30th or even July 3rd, 4th, 5th that we didn't know last year. We didn't know the year before, and we won't know through the end of the season. So the real assessment, I think, comes after that for Chris Bubich. And then Adam Frazier with the strained right thumb began baseball activity Thursday of last week. So the initial kind of thought was maybe he has that 10-day IL stint, pops back up and bounces back. So potentially good news on the injury front. And we talked earlier in the group chat on Tuesday, sometimes no news is good news. And like, if they aren't adding context and adding stuff to this injury report, then Josh, maybe it's not that bad of a deal.
Yeah, I'll take that 9 times out of 10 and twice on Sunday. That's probably not the saying, but yeah, very good news on that front. I'm curious about, you mentioned the IL stint for Chris Bubich coming up in July 6th. The 40-man is now at 40. They were sitting at 39 for the longest time. I thought that was Bubich's spot, just so they didn't have to make a move and kind of paint themselves in a corner. But now we're in the corner, and now we're really going to see who is what the move is. I'm curious to see what that is. I mean, Selby and Austin Nola are probably guys that you could probably.
I think that's the easy candidate.
I think those are the big ones. Yeah, Nick Anderson hasn't been great. He's been better of lately, but I don't know how much you're buying into that. He still has another year of control, so maybe maybe that makes him more needed. But the other one is like Dan Altavilla, that oblique strain. Usually the average DL or IL time on that is like 35 days, and he was put on retroactives on the June 20th. So he might, depending on where he's at, he might be 2 or 3 weeks away. So I don't know if the 60-day IL is a thing, but obliques are weird. So I don't know. It'll be curious to see what happens. I think those are the 4 that could potentially get knocked off, but we'll see.
And how soon do you guys think we actually see Bubich in the big leagues? Because I don't think he's going to. I think it's going to be a 40-man ad and then option to Omaha to like continue ramping up like out of the bullpen. Because he's only got like 3 or 4 appearances out of the bullpen there.
Yeah. And they haven't been great.
Yeah.
No.
So box score wise, I don't know if the stuff is
so this could be, and they would still have a week's worth of games before the All-Star break. So maybe you option him like on the 6th, they DFA somebody, add him, option him, and then let him get 3 or 4 more outings. And then after the All-Star break, he's a call-up. I could see it being something like that. I do not see them adding him to the big league roster until they feel like he is either as close to 100% as he's possibly going to be, or he is ready to hit the ground running, getting innings out of the bullpen. Because I don't think he's quite there on both parts A and B of that yet.
Well, I mean, who are you replacing in the bullpen right now? The bullpen had a good week
too. Yeah.
But the most logical candidate is probably Carlos Hernandez, and that gives you 4 lefties in that bullpen. 4 lefties. I don't
think
they
want to do. Yeah.
I don't think they do, but it would be. But I mean, you could see a case for it, I think, at this point. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
I am very interested to hear about Joel's experience covering the game over the weekend. But before we do that, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
Thank you to anybody tuning in on YouTube, listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If you want to drop a comment or a review, preferably a good one. If it's a bad one, we'll read and listen to those too. Feel free to do so on your desired platform. Really grateful for the support here. Joel, you got to do something really cool in the last week since the last time we spoke. And part of it didn't even have to do with the game that day. Like, it was just a side thing that was well-deserved for a Royals legend and a Kansas City icon.
Yeah, so I was able to go as media to the game on Saturday. I don't do it all the time, a few times a month whenever I'm able to get out there for KC Sports Network, going as a credentialed media member. And that day happened to be Bo Jackson's induction into the Royals Hall of Fame. Now, Cedric Tallis and John Sherholtz were inducted the previous day. They did a little ceremony for them as well, but it was the main guy was Bo for that on Saturday. And I didn't realize it because it wasn't on like the initial schedule that I was given, that in an email that morning, but they were doing a press conference for Bo at 1:30 before. And so I hear about it from Jalen Thompson and Jackson Stone. They're going down there. I was like, oh shoot. Okay. I'm going to follow down. And so I'm sitting in there, and I don't get starstruck very often. And I think some of that is maybe just being in a big league clubhouse more. You get kind of desensitized to like seeing guys just around. But when Bo Jackson walked in the room, I was like, holy shit. Like that, like it hit me like this is one of the greatest athletes ever. And like, obviously I'm too young to have watched him play live. I just have the highlights from both the like Auburn days, playing for the Royals, playing for the Raiders. Like, I just have the highlights to watch. But he is an American icon. He is arguably the greatest American athlete ever to play both baseball and football at the same time at the highest level. It was really, really good at both. To listen to him talk, to listen to his stories was incredible. He was really grateful to be back. And one of the first things he said when they asked him what it meant to him to be back here and get this honor, he said, it's like coming home. I grew up as a professional athlete here in Kansas City. I hadn't gone to the NFL yet. This is where I got my formation as a professional athlete was here. And I didn't have to do much. I just had to watch Willie Wilson and Dan Quisenberry and George Brett and and Frank White and learn from those guys. Told some absolutely awesome stories when they were asking about his favorite memories. And he said it in his speech, but this is the one that I thought was hilarious. They asked him about his favorite memory from playing at Kauffman Stadium. And he said, it was a game that I got ejected from purposefully in the first inning. And he goes, as he tells the story, it was a 0-2 count, first at bat of a game, and takes a fastball right down the middle. And he knew it was a strike. Like, he wasn't even going to argue. And he just gave the umpire some choice words because he was ready to get out of there. And the umpire tossed him. And he said, you're gone. He went, thank you very much. He walks down to the clubhouse, changes without a shower, gets in his car. He stops by Popeyes, gets some food, and then goes down to the plaza. And he spent the rest of the day in bed with his wife and his daughter that was born that morning. So and they watched the rest of the Royals Brewers game on TV down at the plaza at the hospital where his daughter was born that morning. So hell of a story. There was no paternity leave back then.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
The paternity list did not exist until a couple years later. So that was the context. And I didn't think about that at the time, but Steve Stewart mentioned it to me later. Like, that's the context of like why he got tossed, was because there was no paternity list. He had to have an excuse. And so he just said, F it, I'm going to take a fastball down the middle, say some things to the umpire, and get out of the game. The other part, and if you guys like, if anyone wants to hear these at another time, I'll tell them. But before Matt Contreras' availability, Rex Hudler's in the conference room, and he's holding court, telling Bo stories, because they played together in Anaheim in 1994 together. And when you listen to Rex Hudler tell stories, like you stop what you're doing and you listen to the guy, because he's a great storyteller. He is the same person that you guys see on TV on Bally. Like that is how he is as a person too, like off camera. Super cool, super nice. Told some awesome stories about Bo at that time as well. The other thing, and a couple more things from the clubhouse availability, aside from the Bo Jackson stuff. I did get to talk to Alec Marsh during that time. I just didn't want to hold too much of his time, but just a couple questions. He had a really good start on Friday. And so I was like, what does it look like attacking a lineup versus like Cleveland, where not a lot of swing and miss, not a lot of strikeout? How do you attack that versus facing a lineup like the Yankees, where he had a great start? There's a lot more swing and miss there. And he said, you really want to keep it to 4 pitches a batter or less. Like you want to get a lot of early contact, stay in the zone and keep them off the barrel. Like you want to throw a lot of strikes because they're not going to chase. So you want to throw more strikes than normal, even though these dudes aren't going to swing and miss a lot. He said, I like if I have a guy 0-2, sure, I'll throw my slider, try to get the kill shot, see if I can get a swing and miss out of the zone. And then if I don't get it, then I got to get back in the strike zone and try and get a ground ball or a pop-up, something like that. So it was interesting to hear the dynamic of attacking that lineup, because you think it's kind of counterintuitive. Like you don't want to throw a lot of pitches in the zone because they're so contact oriented, but that's actually the better way to approach it. And the strikeout to Jose Ramirez when he threw 98 right down the middle, which is like, here it is, hit it, and he swung and missed. I asked him about that, and he said, well, he got me for a homer early in the game. I was pretty upset. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to rear back and see if I get a little extra. And I did. I asked him if he looked at the radar gun. He said, absolutely. I was going to look like after the pitch, I was going to look back and make sure that I got it up there. And I wish I had 98 in the tank more often, but yes, I did look to make sure that it was as fast as I thought it was out of my hand.
Dial it up, Marshy. Dial it up.
And I don't know if this is necessarily news, but I know that it's something we've talked about a little bit. I know people have mentioned to us before. Jordan Lyles' locker is not in the clubhouse anymore. It had been there every other time that I had gone. It was still there, full. On the off chance he comes back, It's not there anymore. It's CJ Alexander's. So that, I guess, tells you maybe the percentage chance that Jordan Lyles comes back to the team from the, I don't think it's restricted list. It's something else. But yeah, so there's that.
Speaking of CJ Alexander, he just got his first hit.
Hey, welcome to the show, kid.
Not a baby, CJ.
I don't know how you follow that up, Josh, but
what's that?
I don't know how you follow all of that up, but we have future Royals stuff that isn't nearly as fun as some of the stuff that Joel just dropped on us.
You're gonna make me go. Okay, all right, fine. I just wanted to look at my highlight and the what my weekly takeaway was that they cannot take the foot off the gas, and that might be a last week situation, the week before situation, and then looking ahead of what the rest of the first half kind of lies here. That Oakland and Texas road trip that really shows you just can't take a day off. And not saying that they were, but I know the fan base was all pretty jacked up to play those guys after that gauntlet of a schedule. We assumed that they were going to be one series, and they just definitely weren't. Miami almost came to your own barn and take the series, and luckily we had that 8th inning and really kind of sparked the series to take it away from Miami. Just goes to show you that it doesn't matter what their records are coming into the series or into the game. You really have to make sure you're ready to step on throats. And I think that they got into that Cleveland series and they were ready to step on throats. They knew the moment was there. They knew it was their best shot to get back into the fight, and they responded. So I love that they responded to it, and it seems to be the MO of this team is they just consistently respond. Now we are entering a stretch where against the Rays, the Rockies, the Cardinals, and Boston to clean up the rest of this first half. And 3 out of ththose 4 teams are hovering around 500. They are vying for playoff spots, and they are also hot. Tampa Bay is 42-42 and 7-3 in their last 10 games. St. Louis is 43-40, 7-3 in their last 10 games. Boston is 44-39, 6-4 in their last 10 games. And oh, by the way, the Rockies, even though they're 29-55, they play a lot better at home. So that is not necessarily going to be an easy series, even though they are. So you cannot let up here. The foot has to stay on the gas to the All-Star break, and then you can get a breather. But right now, it's stay in it, stay locked in, continue to do what you do, keep winning. Because Boston, Houston, Tampa Bay, they are nipping at the Royals' heels for those final wild card spots. You cannot let up. We gotta finish this first half series, or this first half as strong as you started it.
Yeah. No, you hit the nail on the head. And the Royals entering Tuesday 7 back in the division of Cleveland. 1.5 games up, only 1.5 of Boston for that third and final wild card spot. Their strength of schedule this year, and people earlier in the year, I think it's a valid point to say, that's bullshit. Like, who cares? The team's records change, their outlooks change, all that. Now, 16th in all of baseball. So the people that said the Royals have played a cupcake schedule so far, right down the middle, really. And then remaining strength of schedule is 22nd. So it's kind of setting up well for them to get past the kind of lull that they've had in the last 3-4 weeks and then jump forward. Baltimore, New York, I think both of them end up making the postseason. One is a division winner, one is a wild card. Boston is finding its footing. Tampa Bay, this is a huge series for them. Cleveland and Kansas City, obviously spoken for. Minnesota, kind of in a similar boat to Kansas City. I think one of the Royals and Twins are going to end up getting there. And then Seattle, I think, is going to end up holding on. But Houston, dude, Josh, I remember early in the season, me and you had like a text conversation. We're like, man, we're kind of writing some checks for Houston. They might not be able to cash. They got off to a bad start. Now they look a little bit more like the Astros that we know.
Mm-hmm. I even up to 2 weeks ago, I was like, hey, they might be selling. Maybe they want to trade Alex Bregman. That's not going to happen. If it ever was going to happen, it's not happening now.
Yep. And then Texas and the Angels, both 8 games below 500 at least, and then also 8+ in the division, but not totally out of it. I believe in Texas to come back way more than I believe in the Angels to come back. But all of that is a long road to a short point of, yes, the Royals are positioned well, and I think divisionally and wildcard wise, they can still make some moves. But like Josh said, they need to kind of haul ass down the stretch of the season. So, and make sure that they keep their foot on the gas. And they have the series against Tampa, really important. Singer, Waka, March will pitch in this one. Singer obviously pitching as we're recording this live. Reagan, Lugo, and Singer against Colorado, very winnable series, even on the road. And then the Michael Waka revenge game, potentially. As the game got delayed, producer Nick Springer behind the scenes giving us the up-to-date info. Game got delayed, not at all a surprise.
Tonight might get banged.
Yeah.
Tonight.
Pause.
Now, are we through? Are they through 5 yet?
I don't think they were.
No,
I think they were through like 3 or 4.
Well, the top of the 6.
Oh, top 6 is official. It is an official
Okay.
game. It is an official game. So this might end up. I can look at weather radar, but I'm pretty sure that this thing they might just call it and move on to tomorrow.
I just heard a big ass boom in the background. I don't know if
I've been hearing
jackass neighbors lighting off fireworks again. They've been doing it since like June 20th, and they're going to be doing it until July 20th. Every single bleeping
Midwest thing of all time. They're shooting fireworks in a thunderstorm.
I was not a anti-fireworks guy until I had kids. And now when you're shooting off fiurworks on June 29th, I hope you step on a Lego at 3 a.m.
I hope you step. No, I don't want to say step on a firework. No offense to.
No, we don't need any Jason Pierre-Paul situations here.
Yeah. All right, raining is back in. It's
going to rain pretty heavy for about an hour or so. So I don't know, man. I don't know if they're getting it in tonight unless they want to wait till like 10 p.m.
Yeah,
I would rather them wait till 10 p.m. than lose 1-0.
Fair.
That's fair. Josh is built different.
In my opinion.
Joel, you have a player spotlight. Is Sam Long built different? Is Sam Long him, as the kids would say?
After his performance on Friday, he might be. Or no, that was on a Thursday. My bad. On Thursday, when he goes an inning and 2/3, 4 punchies, strikes out Steven Kwan and Jose Ramirez in the same inning. Unbelievable stuff. We've talked about pretty much all year that the Achilles heel of the bullpen is they don't get enough swing and miss. They don't have enough strikeouts in them to be effective over the course of the season. That sure, batted ball luck goes your way, like it kind of is right now for Schreiber, MacArthur, and those guys, then you're fine. But if the BABIP gods are not in your favor, then you don't have strikeouts to rely on because they're just not there. Sam Long has the strikeout stuff that this bullpen has been begging for. Now, I had to take it down to a minimum of 10 innings because he's only thrown 14 2/3. I wish I could have had the 15 qualifier. Maybe it would have given a bigger sample. But of relievers that have thrown at least 10 innings for the Royals this year, he has the highest strikeout rate by 7%. He strikes out 29.5%, which is good. That's a solid number. The next closest is Chris Stratton at 22.2%. Now, Sam Long also walks 11.5 batters, but when you have the strikeouts, at least it kind of evens out. It's not like Chris Stratton striking out a little over 20 and he's walking 14. Like there's kind of the levels to it there. The whiff rate, it looks solid for him. He's nearly a 33% whiff for him it's really impressive. Yeah. Hard hit rate and the ground ball rate are in the red on Savant. There's a little bit of negative, regression that's going to happen from the expected ERAs in the high 4s. So he's certainly overachieving to some degree right now with a 3 ERA and a whip around 1.2 and 14 2/3. But kind of like I talked about with Chris Stratton last week, like I kind of know what I'm going to get with Sam Long. Like he's going to pitch into some danger, but he's probably going to be able to get out of it because he can get a swing and miss, and he's going to get a ground ball. He's not going to get hit real. He may get hit hard, but it's usually on the ground, so you can live with it. I don't know where he is long-term for this team, but what he has provided right now is an electric left-handed reliever that can strike guys out and strike out some of the hardest guys in the league to strike out. That was as impressive of a relief performance as I've seen from the Royals in a very long time. In a game where it's 2-1, you just don't know. I don't even think they had scored yet. It might have been 1-1. And you're just like, man, this is where the bullpen kind of, this is where they, the other shoe drops a little bit. And you drop a game there, who knows what happens the rest of the series. He gave them the confidence, and that was I think that was what sparked the weekend, honestly. Like, sure, the 5th inning, that exercised some demons for the offense, but for the team to see that, for him to have that moment was really remarkable. And I'm very, very impressed with what he's done so far. And as a non-roster invite, a guy that really had to grind to make it back to the big leagues from where he was in spring to where he is now, super impressive.
Yeah, you're right. He entered a down 0-1 game, runners on first and second. He got some important Ks, and the Royals then scored 2 runs the following inning. So
it matters. Like having that sort of momentum shift was huge.
Yep. 100%. I wanted to talk about another reliever. Here we are. We're talking about the bullpen pieces that are encouraging. Question mark. Carlos Hernandez. He's been back. He's been at 3 appearances last week, 2 2/3 inning, 1 earned, 4 hits, no walks, and 4 strikeouts. Even the earned run was pretty. Not about that was earned. That was the Michael Garcia single. That was a tough play. It almost got Vinny killed, by the way. And then immediately he almost died the next play too. Irregardlessly, since his recall on the 18th of June, he's gone 6 1/3, 1 earned, asterisk, 6 hits, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts as a 205 FIP. His stuff plus since then is 126. Yes, that is the best in this bullpen and potentially in this staff. He's also locating well. So that's also very good. He's the hardest thrower on the staff. They definitely gives you something that you don't have in this bullpen yet. So if Carlos Hernandez can continue to produce, he is doing something that this bullpen does not have. And maybe you don't have to go out and acquire somebody new. Maybe you can go kind of stand pat and not sell the farm for a bullpen arm. It would still probably be good if you did, because I'm not buying the Carlos Hernandez long term at this point. But he did have a productive week. And if you think you can trust him, if you think this is real, then it does save you some farm pieces to potentially throw somewhere else, either on this current roster or down the road. So Carlos Hernandez has had a good week, has had a good couple weeks here in June. Let's see if he can sustain it there into the second half.
Keeping it on the path of a guy who's past, month or so, including some time missed, I don't necessarily buy long term. Hunter Renfroe has been great, like objectively great.
Yep.
Since about early to mid-May. Some things that I found with him. So from May 10th to June 10th, which is when he got hurt. He was warming up 142 WRC plus, OPS almost 900. Since he got back, 168 WRC plus, walking 16% of the time, getting the extra base hits. Some things I found, I went to Savant, and Joel mentioned like the bat tracking stuff. He swings about 3 miles per hour faster than league average, so that's good. But
Also
the
surprising.
average fast swing rate is 22.1%. Guess where Hunter Renfroe's at? Josh, I'll let you go first.
28.
Okay, Joel.
Yeah, I was gonna say around like 26.5%, something like that.
49.
40.
So
It's happening.
Half of his swings this year are fast.
So he's getting his ace swing off a lot, is what's happening.
If there's one thing he's going to do, it's swing at the goddamn ball. That's basically what's been happening
He's gonna
lately.
swing the shit out of it.
Hey, so
Yes.
swing hard in case you hit it, baby.
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely. And really, you go to his Fangraphs page, the barrel rate's similar, the hard hit rate's similar to last year, the spray percentages are similar, the soft contact, the medium contact, all that stuff, the swing and contact rates in general are similar. There's a big BABIP increase, which is expected when the numbers come back up. The line drive rate is up about 7%. And the biggest changes I think he has made, they have that like pitch run value stuff on Fangraphs that tells you how you're doing per 100, like on average against different pitches. Before he got hurt, minus 4.3 against fastballs, plus 2.5 since he got back. The cutter was negative. Now it's neutral. The sinker was minus 4. Now it's positive 0.06 or sorry, 0.6. So you know you're not getting anything with him defensively besides a strong arm. Like the outs above average are bad. He's not giving you a ton there. The base running run value is like the 10th percentile. The sprint speed isn't good. So you're getting what you thought you'd get from Hunter Renfroe there. Since he started that hot streak on May 10th, and he has like 110, 115 plate appearances, I want to say. It's not a lot. But among that qualified cutoff of 100, 23rd in WRC plus, 21st in slugging, 22nd in ISO, and 30th in walk to strikeout ratio. So the Royals have got a damn good player since May 10th, and that's when he officially started heating up. He has kind of slight improvements in swing decisions, the discipline, the plate coverage. He's making faster decisions. He's swinging hard. He's on a heater. Don't get me wrong. He's not going to keep this up the rest of the year, but that WRC plus for the year, it's at 91. Last year it was at 92. Like he is officially back to the Hunter Renfroe that people saw in 2023, except he's ascending instead of descending. And I think there's a little bit more room for him to keep pumping those numbers up through the end of the year. So again, long road to a short path, but if Hunter Renfroe even keeps us up at 80% of what he's doing, the Royals are going to be very happy. And, you know, this is a guy that back in April, people were calling to give up on the contract already.
This is why the Royals, the people in the front office have jobs with professional baseball teams, and we're here. And people have Twitter accounts. But this is where, and I talked about this with Will Smith and some other guys, that this is where the patience paid off. Like it would have been very easy for them to quick hook this and we're going to move on in a different direction. They didn't do that. Kept throwing them out there, kept going. This is, we're paying these guys to do this. We know they can produce. We know they're better ball players than what they're showing right now. And look at that. When you keep putting guys in the lineup that are pros, that have been there, done that, they know what they need to do, get further into a year, and all of a sudden they start producing. It's not a surprise. Like, this is what these guys do. And that sort of confidence and the vote of confidence from the front office and the coaching staff to continue to put them out there, change roles a little bit. Like Renfroe's not playing every day. They were like, okay, we can't put you out there every day, but 4 or 5 days, sure. And then it maximizes what they're able to do. What they did with Will Smith. All right, you're not a closer. Okay, we're going to put you in like 6th, 7th inning. You're going to be that guy now. And then it maximizes, and we'll throw you every 4 days instead of every 2. And then all of a sudden it maximizes what they're able to do. That's what good coaching staffs and good front offices do, maximizing their roster with what they have available. And that's what they've done. And that's, I think, it bears out with the performance we've seen from Hunter Renfroe since mid-May.
Yeah,
Yep.
I have nothing to add. I do, and maybe I do. I wonder, when we were in the locker room a few times, and Joel, you can probably speak to this too. The time that we were in the locker room, it seemed like Renfroe was cutting it up in the mix of everything. So I do think that there's some kind of clubhouse presence within Hunter Renfroe that was nice to see, at least personally.
Yeah,
And
so
if
that was
if that's part of
interesting.
it too, then that
So
would
that was
also explain it.
interesting because I had seen people hop in our mentions from like other teams when we talked about Renfroe of like he's a clubhouse issue wherever, whatever they were a fan of. And I was like, I've never heard anything like that, but okay. But
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything like that here. He's either sitting at his, he's either sitting at his locker or he's sitting at one of the tables eating. They're watching the game. They're talking shop. He's chopping it up with whoever. Like he's always talking to somebody about, whatever. So he seems just like a solid dude that everyone likes in the clubhouse. So I do think that matters. And there's probably a certain amount of leadership and probably being humbled a little bit at various points in his career that this is a good opportunity to bounce back. And I think he's taken that in stride.
I did not bounce back with betting this week.
None
I
of
bet
us
Bobby.
did, man.
Yeah, well, we had a rough week. I didn't even come close on mine though. I bet for Bobby Witt Jr. to have over half a home run and over 3.5 RBIs. He played well. He had a 153 WRC plus. He got on base. He had some good hits, but no homer and only 1 RBI. So I'm doubling down, but I'm also making it a little bit easier for him and for me, hopefully. Over half a home run. I do want him to cash in on that for me, but
they're going
over
to
2.5 RBIs. So I think I feel optimistic about this. And I told you guys if it was kind of a phony bet that I would cancel it, but you were gracious enough to lend a hand to a guy who's struggling in the betting department on this show.
I just love the double down. Like that's how that's true.
Down.
That's the true.
It's got to happen
gambler.
at some
like,
point.
Yeah,
right.
It's like it
Chase
didn't
your
hit this
losses.
time, but it's happening this time.
Exactly.
I love it. It's the true gambler. And I still am holding out hope for mine because we were at 4 wins. I said over 4.5 this week. I need the rain to stop. I need that tarp to come off the field. I need them to beat the Rays, and then I can win this bet. But that's still on the line. While that's being done, let's talk about Salvador Perez. He seems to be heating up a little bit right now. 2 home runs last week. They're going to Colorado. The thin air is going to be very key in that. He has 1 home run in 4 games in Colorado already. Then we're going to St. Louis, where he has 5 home runs in 16 games. I'm not saying he's going to hit a home run next week. I'm saying he's going to hit at least 2. So give me over 1.5 home runs of Salvador Perez next week, going hot into the All-Star break. He becomes the starting catcher of the AL squad in the All-Star game, and he puts a stamp on it next week by hitting at least 2 jacks.
He hits them in bunches, so this feels like a very good bet and kind of
that could happen in Colorado.
Absolutely. Last week, I had Michael Wacha under 5.5 strikeouts against Cleveland, a lineup that we talked about earlier, like doesn't strikeouts on. And Michael Wacha got 6 punchies and 5 1/3. So like it was a great line. Like I did very well there. So at least I have that. But
did you win that though?
I did not because I had under 5.5. Yep. It was a solid. I think
it's almost like
I had the
it's almost
right
like a
side.
win, even if you said a good line like that. It's almost like a win, but it's not. It's still a loss.
It feels like I had the right side. It's like when you bet an under in like Iowa Northwestern and it goes over by like half, like by 1 point. You're like,
yes,
okay, I had the right side of this. That was messed up. But I'm going to actually go to the other side. You guys talk about hitters. I'm going to go to pitchers. And I know that pitching in Colorado is not necessarily a friendly thing, but I think Cole Reagan is going to give a quality start in Colorado on Friday night. So that's 6 innings, 3 runs or less. Colorado, despite having a pristine offensive environment, strikes out 25% of the time as a team and has a team weighted runs created plus of 81. I think Cole Reagans is going to absolutely shove it and bounce back from his start against Cleveland on Saturday.
I hope he goes 5 2/3 with 3 earned, or he goes 6, and then there's like a Fugazi. There's a Fugazi 4th earned run that really wasn't on him. I hope it comes down to that because Joel's lines have been pretty on point lately.
Odds on that would be like minus 150. I feel like that's a softball. I think you're not challenging
Damn.
yourself here.
You
I
know,
think
well,
I'm gonna call you
Damn.
out.
okay, I'm saying this because Colorado is a terrible place to pitch. So
Yep.
I do think he gets out of there with 6 innings, 2 runs, 9 strikeouts, 2 walks. Like I think that's fine. Like that is
It's the unstoppable force meets the immovable object.
correct.
Like
Yes,
the opposite. Like
so like if he was doing this in Kansas City, like they're playing the Rockies in Kansas City, I'd bump the lineup naturally, but I'm gonna give a little leniency to Coors Field being hell for pitchers.
okay.
I do
Okay.
wonder about this though, and we mentioned it earlier, talking about Lugo going on Saturday.
Mhm.
It could be an issue. Like I don't feel very good about that start because he relies on movement so much. Like he talked about it in Arizona, his curveball wasn't dropping like it's supposed to. His slider wasn't moving like it was supposed to. I do wonder about his ability in that environment. Now, I think it's going to be a one-off. This isn't me saying the regression for Seth Lugo is coming, but it's just a bad combination for the way he pitches. Just something to consider if you are, and this is not gambling advice, but if you were to put some money on the game, just something to consider.
I would have said the over on July 2nd is the time Joe gives up on Seth Lugo. It's
not at all, man.
shame.
Not just
shame.
one thing.
Nah, that's what I heard. That's what you said. I'm not.
Is it confirming your priors? Is that all that is?
I put money on the second Cleveland game and it was like 3-2 and the run line was 10.5. I was like, this is free money. There's no way they get to 10.5. And then I texted the group chat, Josh, that was the one that you went to, I believe. And I was like, okay, the game's in the bag. They can stop now.
10-3.
And then it ended up being 10-3. Yeah.
No.
Vinny bomb.
I was like, you got to be effing kidding me. And of course, they got the dub, which is something that AAA Omaha is quite familiar with this year. 53-27, still hanging in first place in the International League West with a plus 90 run differential. They got Jesus Tinoco. We talked about that. I want to talk about Devon Mann real quick. And he's 27. So again, kind of the CJ Alexander vibes of the prospect, non-prospect type thing, but also recent acquisition, quote unquote, that people should still be following. 133 WRC plus this year. Month of June, that's 113. He has a double-digit walk rate on the year and in the month of June. Played well there, and I found this year no more third base, no more shortstop, no more outfield. He started 15 games at DH. He has played 130 innings at first base and 254 at second base. So Devon Mann, they're kind of keeping things simple for him in the field, and he is helping reward that with keeping things simple at the plate. Josh, what do you got?
I am going to do something that doesn't make a lot of sense and highlight a guy that had 11 plate appearances last week. Brian O'Keefe, only plate appearances, 11 plate appearances last week. He went 2 for 4 with 2 home runs, 3 walks, and 2 strikeouts on the year, an 880 OPS in 153 plate appearances. But the average exit velocity has been 91.1. The degree launch angle has been 21 degrees. Let me say a name of a guy who has both of those things at the major league level, and let me know if it's a good thing. Kyle Tucker for the Houston Astros has very similar on both of those. Is that a good thing?
That is a good thing.
Okay. Confirmed. A good thing. Striking out 21.6% of the time, walking at 13.1% of the time. Whiffs a little bit too much, but I kind of wanted to highlight his good week because I think it is interesting. We've talked about the Royals catching depth up top to bottom in this organization so far. Obviously, Salvi and Freddie at the major league level. A guy like Brian O'Keefe, who might be able to produce a little bit at the major league level behind the plate and at the plate. We've seen Austin Nola. He's on the 40-man roster. Maybe he's the third in the wing, the third on the depth chart. We saw Logan Porter dealt a few weeks ago. But it is interesting that maybe you can kind of count Brian O'Keefe as an insurance policy to deal someone like Austin Nola, or I'm going to say it, maybe deal Freddie Fermin as a place of a luxury to have as a great backup catcher. So maybe he's an insurance policy that you could turn into something that really does help you at the major league level by trading for Amin or maybe Austin Nola as a defensive replacement type of candidate. But Brian O'Keefe is interesting. He has been very good at the plate this year, and I'm curious to see what he could do at the major league level again.
Good stuff there. Double A Northwest Arkansas, 39-37 with a plus 21 run differential. Kaden Wallace is back from, I can't remember, was it an oblique or a lat injury? I think it was an oblique.
I think it was an oblique. Yeah, I think it was an oblique.
The dreaded O word. 6 weeks initially was the estimate. Now back, had a 118 WRC plus before that injury. I've got Diego Hernandez for Double A. So last year, played 60 games, had a 61 WRC plus, walked less than 6% of the time. 60 games this year so far, walked less than 5% of the time with a 66 WRC plus, striking out 24% of the time. Month of June, walking again less than 6% of the time. The WRC plus is up to like 84. Like, it just isn't working for him right now. He's still young enough to where he can rebound and take over in that regard. No one's giving up on him by any means, but the MLB pipeline list's not up there, and he's not giving them a reason to add him on to the back end of that with his performance. So unfortunately, a negative slant for this week's Double A highlight. Josh, what about you?
I'm going to bring it back to the positive side, and we went one catching domino on Brian O'Keefe. We're going to go with another catcher in Double A. Luca Tres had a week last week, 8 for 22, 1 double, 3 home runs, and 3 walks and 6 strikeouts. This year, it's his third crack at Double A. He's slashing 287, 360, and 506 in 200 plate appearances. The BABIP is like 356. So I think there's some regression probably due on that time. But I do think that a domino probably does need to fall, but he probably needs to get that bump to AAA pretty soon. And whether or not, I mean, he deserves it on top of that, but there's a catcher in high A that I'm pretty freaking fond of that I think it's time to move him potentially up to Double A. We might talk about him in a little bit. We'll see. But shout out to Luke. Yeah, the odds of that is like minus 1,000. Shout out to Luca Tres. Again, the Royals catching depth in the minors is a lot of fun. So Luca Tres, shout out to you.
The high A Quad Cities River Bandits have a plus 11 run differential, but are 3 games below 500. They are above 500 slightly in the second half, so looking to see if they can keep that up. Brett Squires to the 7-day IL. I've got positive news on one player's front, but Joel, you have a highlight for high A.
Yeah, so Steven Zobac had a really solid start this week. I feel like he has been a pretty solid contributor all year for high A Quad Cities. 6 strikeouts in 7 innings this week, only 1 earned run, no walks. That has been kind of his MO most of the year. Last 4 starts, no walks, 55 strikeouts in 67 innings, only 11 walks there. Only given up 3 home runs all year, which I think is that is kind of noteworthy. Doesn't give up the long ball, which is significant, and that helps. You know, pitching in Kansas City, you're not going to give up a bunch anyways. He's getting to a point kind of like he did last year in Columbia, where I want to see him bump up a level. Like, I think he's an advanced college pitcher. Get him to Double A, and then it's sink or swim time. But I think he's a guy that could factor in over the next year or two. I do, in probably the bullpen, but a guy that I do think is going to factor into the big league club at some point.
Well, I talked about Zobac a few weeks ago. I thought Zobac would be a perfect candidate in a trade because, you know, he's a bit high for his level, but I do think that he's an arm that could definitely bring back something in a package, obviously. But yeah. A guy who's I'm not going to talk about his package. Ben Kudrna had a great week last. I was going to transition.
Bring it back
almost grabbed it. Yeah, bring it back in. Ben Kudrna had his best start in high A to date last week. 6 innings pitched, no earned, 3 hits, 0 walks, and 9 punchies. The big thing about Kudrna is, do you think he could get the punchies? And that has seemingly been coming this year. So like to see his stuff. He is performing there in high A, probably about that time to get him some Double A starts as well. Still just 21 years old. So we probably would have been talking about him in this draft class in a couple of weeks But he's still just 21 years old. There's still a lot of projections still with Ben Kudrna. Nice to see him put it together. Carter Jensen needs to step it back up. He has been slumping over the last few weeks. He went 2 for 18 with 2 walks and 8 strikeouts last week. So I still love you, Carter Jensen. Still can't wait to see you in Kansas City. But for now, just shake off that rough week.
I notice a gap between the brevity of the Carter Jensen updates when he's not doing so well versus the Carter Jensen updates when he is doing well.
Hey,
well deserved.
I'm keeping that energy. You can't. Yes. I'm a man of principles.
We have a heartbeat. We have signs of life from Carson Rocka, who, man, on the year, the numbers are still not pretty. He's still striking out 26% of the time. That hasn't changed in the recent samples, so that's still higher than a lot of people would like. Before June 1st, the 561 OPS with a 59 WRC plus, but in the month of June, he woke up 801 OPS, 132 WRC plus, and a 19.4% walk rate. So Carson Rocka, a guy that we've been high on. Preston Farr, we've had conversations with him about Rocka. Everyone is high on him pretty much on their prospect rankings, it seems, compared to the consensus. And he's kind of showing some of those people why their faith might be justified. So kudos to him, and kudos to Columbia, who has kind of turned things around this season. They're now 7 games above 500. The run differential firmly in the positive. They had a bevy of transactions of guys that went from the complex to A-ball. They activated Mauricio Velez from the 7-day IL. They put Daniel Vasquez on the 7-day IL. And I'm going to talk about Ethan Bosacker real quick, who I think it was Joel mentioned his name probably a month ago and was like, just keep an eye on this guy and see what he does. 4.25 ERA in the month of June. He's kind of been alternating between the rotation and the bullpen, but 21 strikeouts to 8 walks in those 29 innings. So he's pitching well. The FIP is below 3.5. The ERA is right below 2.8. The strikeout numbers aren't anything crazy, but the walk numbers have been very good. He has 74 innings. So, again, lots of things happening in Columbia. And, Josh, what do you think?
Something that happened in my basement currently is that I may have come into the season overlooking a little bit too much Austin Charles. He's had a really strong month. He's a very tooled up, raw guy out of high school the last few years. Type of guy that you really want to bet on the upside of, but this last week he went 8 for 18, 3 doubles, 1 triple, 2 walks, and 3 punch outs. Definitely another one of those guys that I could definitely see being the main part of a trade, potentially this year, but maybe next year, but still very raw, but still high upside on him as a two-way player coming out of high school. So let's see what happens with all that. But yeah, he's been pretty hot this last month. So we'll have to see how that goes. Joel, do you have anybody for this Columbia team at all?
I'll just go ahead and do the usual Blake Mitchell update. How does that
Yeah.
Really good week for him. Slashed 318, 464, 727 slug. Now he did walk 21%. The strikeout rate was 36. It's been down as of late, but he looks like he had a 409 ISO this past week.
That's stupid.
It's stupid. I have moments where I'm like, I have no idea what this guy. And then and then you see some swings and you're like, damn, that's why they drafted him at number 8 overall. Like it's still got a long runway. I'm skeptical still just because of the prep catcher profile drafted that highly. But I mean, you can't say the dude doesn't have legit crazy upside. I hope that he keeps trending in that direction. Still have a healthy amount of skepticism, but he put some swings on tape that are really, really impressive. That gives you a lot to dream on with the guy.
You know who else puts some really good swings on the ball very routinely? And really before this past week was in the slump a little bit. And it was due. We figured he wouldn't keep up what he was doing initially all year. But my toast game segment, I don't have a holiday bottled in bond or soft red wheat or 5 farms in this 40-ounce water bottle. But I do have a bunch of water in there that we can pretend is alcohol today. My toast game goes to Salvador Perez. Man, he from May 24th to June 24th, 57 WRC plus. He had a power outage. He was hitting under 200. Last week hit 304. The ISO was like 300, something ridiculous. So the power was back. The on-base percentage was back even without a ton of walks, and Salvador Perez was back. So, Josh, I think that was very much needed in a time where they had a pretty critical series and a pretty critical week.
He remains to be just hitting the dumbest of pitches for hits. It is the dumbest thing. I mean, the ball
it's so funny.
The game we went to on Friday, he had it was like a 2 RBI single, and the ball was legitimately 1 foot outside and 1 foot below the strike zone, and he just poked it out there for a 2-run single. It was the dumbest thing, and his power is obviously crazy. But another guy that should be getting a lot more flowers, and I think that it's kind of gone under the radar a little bit too much. He's probably due for regression, but we're going to celebrate him right now. He started tonight for the Royals. Brady Singer entered tonight with the 9th lowest ERA in the American League. I don't think enough people are talking about that. Like I said, I think most of the metrics are suggesting that he is kind of overachieving a little bit. Who cares? That's a great ERA. He's producing, and he's still like the 3rd or 4th guy that you're rolling with. So that is who you're getting at the 3rd and 4th spot in your rotation. The starting rotation is the reason why the Royals are doing so well this year. So we need to give Brady Singer his flowers right now on this podcast right now. So Brady Singer, shout out to you. Toast game of some bottled and bond bourbon from Holiday Distillery. Shout out.
I do not have Holiday bottled and bond, but I have 1 sip of this awesome beer left. And I'm going to shout out Ben Kudrna and Gavin Cross. They're going to be representing the Royals in the Future Stars game. This coming Sunday, not this coming Sunday, next Sunday. My apologies.
There you go.
Down in Texas for All-Star Week. Get that kicked off. Both well earned for both guys. Gavin Cross coming a long way from where he was last year. Ben Kudrna continues to rise, as a guy that we feel maybe could factor into the big league rotation here in a couple of years. So a well-deserved honor for them. And I'll be honest, kind of surprised that Blake Mitchell didn't get an opportunity, but possibly next year if he continues to do what he's doing. So to Ben Kudrna and Gavin Cross.
And one to you guys for jumping on and sharing your wealth of knowledge, and one to Nick behind the scenes for producing and doing a damn good job doing so. And one for everyone who tuned in, and will do so hopefully on Wednesday on Apple, Spotify, however you get your podcasts. Again, super grateful every week for that support. If you want to leave a review, feel free, whether it's good or bad. We prefer the good ones for obvious reasons, but are very happy for that support either way. We'll be back next Tuesday. Everyone have a happy and safe 4th of July. Until then, take care.